It's cheaper to buy a $35,000 robotic arm than it is to hire an employee who's inefficient, making $15 an hour, bagging French fries. It's nonsense, and it's very destructive. It's inflationary, and it's going to cause a job loss across this country like you're not going to believe.
That was former McDonald's USA CEO Ed Rensi warning protesters, hey, you better be careful what you wish for. McDonald's CEO Steve Easterbrook responded to the protesters saying, I don't see it as being a risk to job elimination. Ultimately, we're in the service business. We will always have an important human element to Hardee's and Carl's Jr. CEO Andy Puzder on whether he agrees or not. You know, Andy, it seems pretty obvious to me that the McDonald's CEO right now is trying to walk a thin line and saying, listen, there will always be a human element. We're not going to replace people with robots, but at the same time admitting to automation coming.
Well, if you look at McDonald's restaurants in France, for example, you go into McDonald's in Paris, and all you see are ordering kiosks. All you see are the iPads to order on. And that's something Ed Rensi also talked about, was how in Europe this has already happened, and it's happening more in the United States. You know, there was the CBO, which, as you know, is nonpartisan, just came out with a report within the last couple of days that looks at youth unemployment for men 18 to 34 comparing 1980 to 2014. And it found that in 1980, 1 out of every 10 men in that age group was either unemployed or incarcerated. Now that's 1 in 6, and with African Americans, it's 1 in 3. And they covered the reasons. They looked at globalization, which really feeds into Donald Trump's message. They looked at slow economic growth, which feeds into things you and I have been talking about for 5 years. But they also talked about the minimum wage increasing at the state and local level, combined with increases in means-tested welfare benefits that encourage people not to work. Now, this is the CBO. This isn't a Republican report.
Sure.
And it credits part of that to the way to minimum wage increases and an increase in these means-tested benefits that discourage work for young people. So it's a bad situation, and these people really should think twice about what they're doing. There are solutions to this problem. Increasing the minimum wage is not the best solution.
Would you even go as far then as to suggest maybe lowering the minimum wage, particularly for younger workers, entry workers, to get their foot in the door, learn about the responsibilities of showing up, punching a clock, achievement, just getting their foot on the ladder of success?
You know, if we're going to increase the minimum wage at all, we've got to keep a lower minimum wage for entry-level employees, or they're just going to be shut out of the workforce. We should also have an exception, a geographic exception, because you can't have the same minimum wage in Birmingham, Alabama, and San Francisco. I mean, the unemployment rates are massively different. So there are a lot of considerations. I don't think the CBO came out with a report last year that said you could raise the minimum wage to about $9 without much impact to jobs, and you probably could do that. But then you've got to take a look at, you know, in the high unemployment areas, how much can you increase it, and what are we doing if we're locking young Americans, 16 to 24-year-olds, out of the labor force? I mean, that's a very, very serious problem at the moment, and increasing the minimum wage is just exacerbating it.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Now, also, speaking of all these reports that have come out, that Pew Research report on 18 to 34-year-olds living at home, African Americans who have dropped out of high school or high school graduates are at the highest level, and it's almost a death spiral for life. You know, Andy, I want to ask you about you're on Trump's National Finance Committee. You just talked about the globalization aspect of it. You know, McDonald's, yes. To your point, you talked about McDonald's being in France. They're also going to start 400 table service in the UK. I know you want to be an expansionist. You want to broaden your business outside of America. So how do you reconcile what some people feel is in more of an isolationist feel with what we've heard so far?
Well, I don't really think we're talking about an isolationist feel with Mr. Trump. And by the way, I'm a Milton Friedman fan on free trade. I'm a free trade advocate. But I don't think there's anything wrong with negotiating better deals with countries like China, where they don't respect patent laws. They take our technology. They won't let American companies enter China unless they turn over trade secrets or confidential information. These are the kinds of things that could be rectified if we negotiated better deals. I think there's absolutely an important aspect in that. Also, we're in 38 countries outside the United States. We are growing globally, and I don't see any of Donald Trump's policies slowing that down. I think what he's trying to do is get better deals for Americans, and I think that's a very positive thing to do.
On the Keystone Pipeline, Donald Trump says, hey, you know, if you're going to run this thing from Canada all the way down, you know, across the entire America, we should get a piece of the action. You know, this is a unique thinking no one's come up with before, but it makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, maybe those are the kind of things we need to start thinking about, no?
They are the kind of things we need to start thinking about. You know, I think the American people view this country like a car on a slippery road heading for a tree. And you know, the first thing you want to do is hit the brake. Now, the road's slippery. You don't know what's going to happen, but you sure don't want to hit the tree. And I think Donald Trump is that brake. And this country is that car heading for a disaster if we don't make some serious changes, such as the one that you just proposed. We need to look at these deals intelligently. We need to look at them for the benefits that Americans can get from these kinds of deals and these kinds of you know, things like the Keystone Pipeline coming down. It's a great way. Look at it like a businessman. Don't look at it like a politician. Look at it in a way that makes sense, like you just suggested, and I think we'll be fine.
Andy, thanks a lot. Really appreciate it, and keep all the great commercials coming.
Thanks, Charlie. Good to see you.